I love you, Benji.
So introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Rachel Warren and I'm the co-founder of Birmingham Says No, a youth organisation in the West Midlands set up to tackle knife crime and youth violence.
What made you start Birmingham Says No?
Birmingham Says No was established in October last year, 2019. It was initially part of a bigger organisation under the label of Your City Says No. So friends that lived down in Croydon, one of whom had lost her son to knife crime 4 years ago, another lost her nephew, decided that they were going to try and bring in as many people from across the country to help combat knife crime and youth violence. So they set up an initiative called Your City Says No and invited people from up and down the country to join in and take part and represent the areas in which they lived. So myself and another lady that had also lost her son sadly to knife crime decided that we would be happy to work and represent Birmingham. So we established Birmingham Says No and joined in as part of that wider Your City Says No group, where we had 42 cities and towns across the country all working together with the same agenda of trying to tackle knife crime.
Why do you think the youth are vulnerable to knife crime?
I think the youth are very vulnerable to knife crime because it seems like it's an uprising trend. I mean, in the last 12 months, there's been over 43,000 reported incidences of knife crime. Sadly, my own son fell victim to a knife crime incident where he and friends were held at knife point and robbed of their mobile phones. That for me really was kind of the initiative that got me behind this whole Birmingham Says No thing. I was left feeling very angry and very helpless. You know, the police can't protect my son. I couldn't protect my son. His dad, as notorious as he may be, couldn't protect his own son either. You know, it was a very difficult situation. And the impact that I saw that had, I just felt that we needed to be out there and do something. I think that young people are extremely vulnerable in many different ways, both as victims and being drawn into being perpetrators as well. You know, many young people, for whatever reason, may not have a stable upbringing, stable family life, someone supportive, someone to mentor them and help them in life, and therefore they seek that guidance from outside of the home and look to peers, which are a massive influence. I'm sure anyone would agree that, you know, your peer group that you grow up with really do have a large impact on kind of, you know, the route that you take in your own life and how things turn out, particularly in the teenagers. They're a massive influence. I think young people now are very vulnerable to that. There's a lot of glamorization as well. People glamorize this whole carrying a knife thing and, you know, being violent, not just in drill music, but on movies and films. You know, there's many different ways that kind of violence and carrying a knife is glamorized now. So I think young people are drawn into that as well without understanding fully the realities and the implications of carrying a knife, what that means for them.
What effect has that incident had on your son?
Obviously, it was really scary. I mean, you know, boys tend to be more closed. They don't talk as openly probably as girls do, so they tend to kind of go into the shell a little bit. But I know it had a massive impact on him. You know, it left him feeling very anxious and nervous for a long time. And, you know, he was quite fearful of going out to public places on his own. And I've got lots of young people that I've worked with that equally have had, you know, been affected, have been stabbed, have had the same impact. One of our really good supporters, a great lady that works with us and has run a support group for parents, her son was stabbed and they stabbed him so hard. He put his arm up to kind of protect himself because they were going for his stomach. They stabbed him so hard in his arm, they actually broke his arm. And for him, the same. You know, it's the influence is the same, the impact is the same. These young people are left traumatised, they're left suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder, they're left suffering with feelings of anxiety, of panic, of fear. You know, it's really not nice for any person that's been affected by knife crime in any way.
What are the alternatives to knife crime?
Knife crime's a difficult one because, you know, we're constantly out there telling young people, drop the knife, you know, put down your knife and, you know, you don't need to carry a knife, it's not a cool thing to do and da-da-da. But in the generation that we're in now, they might beg to differ. And we're telling young people, drop your knife, don't go out, selling drugs, don't go out robbing people. But what is the alternative really for these young people? As I said, many young people don't have that stability at home where they can have the luxury of turning to, mom, dad, whoever, and saying, can I have £20 because I want to go to see my friends? Can I have £100 because I need a new pair of trainers to fit in with everybody else? So they have to find their own way. And it is very difficult. So what we kind of try and aim to do is provide them with alternatives that are more positive. There's lots of ways of making money. And some of the young people that we work with that have previously been involved in gangs and have been gang affiliated, have carried knives, have carried out robberies and done various things to make money, have found ways through their own business. I've got 3-4 really good friends, advocates of Birmingham Say No, that have written their own books and used their life story to write books now and are using that, obviously a positive platform. Got young people that are running their own business, clothing brands, hair businesses, makeup businesses, all kind of things. So we kind of promote for young people alternatives and we support them with that. We've worked with a young man that found himself in a difficult situation, was homeless, and again we supported with that, helped him to get certain qualifications so he could get into work. Adults do have that advantage. We have that advantage that we can probably make connections better than a young person. So we're there just for people to reach out and say, listen, I want to do something different. How can you help me? That's our agenda. That's what we try to do.
So do you think the youth are not given enough opportunities?
I definitely think the youth definitely lack opportunity. I mean, it's okay telling young people, right, go to school, be on your best behaviour, do your GCSEs, do your A-levels, go to university. That's not feasible for everybody. As I said, there are a lot of external factors that affect young people as individuals. We can't expect every young person to be able to abide by the stereotypical perfect route to a prosperous career. That's not going to happen for everybody. And I think young people are judged wrongly. That goes right through the schooling system, the education system, right through to universities and things. It's like there's an old saying, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's always going to be a failure. Do you know what I mean? And it's very much the same for young people. If you judge young people solely by their ability to get great GCSE grades, you're setting them up for failure. So I do think there's a lack of opportunities. There's plenty of educational opportunity for young people, colleges and things like that. But I do think we need to see more apprenticeships that are not paying kind of, £30 a week and expecting a young person to live off that. Some of our young people are living on their own. Do you know what I mean? They're having to support themselves or even support themselves and families. It's not feasible. There has to be something more there and more positive things that young people can get involved with, more creative things. Young people are very creative, but there's not a lot available for them in terms of, kind of making music or dance or photography, videography, creative things such as hair and beauty. It's kind of not seen as being important. If you're not good enough to go to university, you're not good enough. That's what we're taught. So I do think that, definitely young people do lack those opportunities to be creative and develop their own sense of kind of, business and find their own way in the world of making money.
So what stereotypes do you believe surround young people?
I mean, largely the media is to blame. I really do think the media paints an awful picture of our amazing young people. In this city, all diversities, all ethnicities, there are some absolutely phenomenal young people. I've worked with so many and speak to so many on a regular basis. But I think, the stereotype is that young people, that they're ignorant, they don't have any morals, they're selfish, they don't care for anyone but themselves, they're all hooligans, they all carry knives, they're all dealing drugs, they're all no good. And I mean, if you're told that enough times, then of course that's what you're going to live up to. If you're told as a young person, and I have to say young men particularly, because young men do, I think, are stereotyped so badly by society, and even further to go ahead and say young black men as well, it's even worse. The stereotypes that surround our young black men, it's very, very sad. It's very difficult, and people don't understand the adversity that they're already facing being a teenager, much less being a young black male as well. It's 10 times harder. So that's why we do try and work really hard, to kind of build up that positive image and to show people out there that actually, you're wrong. Teenagers are not all that. Yeah, there's some that are. There's plenty of adults like that too. White, black, Asian, there's plenty out there that, do their own thing and don't conform to society. But equally, there's many more that do, that are fabulous and that are trying their best to, you know, do positive things in the community.
Do you think that most parents are concerned that their kids will be affected by knife crime?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a following on Instagram, which tends to be more for the young people, but Facebook, we also have a large, like 4,000 people following on Facebook as well, which tends to be more of like the adult community. And we regularly speak to parents that are really concerned of their children being affected by knife crime, whether that be as a victim or potentially becoming a perpetrator. I think, yeah, and especially having a son. I mean, myself, I've got 2 teenage children. I've got a younger daughter that's growing up and obviously will, you know, become part of the society. We've always lived in Handsworth and surrounding areas. And personally, I love the area. Do you know what I mean? I really don't think it depends on the area that you live in, how your children turn out. I think that's another disgusting stereotype that really upsets me. You know, people that live in the inner city, particularly the north of the city, again, are stereotyped and expected to live to a certain role. But I think parents generally are very, very concerned for their children now. And again, as I say, particularly if you've got young boys growing up to become young men, I think it's a very scary time for them, most definitely.
Something that's not really spoken about is how females are also affected by knife crime. Can you just shed some light on how females?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, females are certainly not immune from it. Absolutely. I think the roles of females tends to be slightly different. Females, like, I've done a gangs and youth violence course, which was written by Craig Pinkney. Look him up, absolutely fabulous. He's a criminologist at the university. It specialises in gangs and we've worked specifically on a module which is all about females and their involvement in gangs, which tends to be slightly different. They tend to be kind of more manipulated into that role, and don't get me wrong, they're happy to go along with that. And I can talk from my own experience. I was quite happy going along with certain situations because I felt I was part of that and, you know, was happily enjoying that at the time. But you often don't realise the manipulation that's taking place. They could be, you know, the baby mom or just, you know, the gal on the side, whatever, that's expected to help and assist and often act as kind of the cover story or the alibi, holding weapons in the house, holding drugs, etc., etc. But I do think, again, the increase in violence among young women is most definitely rising as well. There are many young women that have equally been, you know, kind of involved with the law for carrying knives and for committing knife offences. We do regular Instagram lives as well, and actually one of the sessions we've got coming up shortly is with a young lady that's been in prison herself, not for knife crime related incident, but she's been in prison, served time in prison for being involved in certain circles, and I'm really looking forward to getting a better insight into how females are involved in all of this kind of violent circles that we're surrounded by.
Do you think postcode wars could ever be diminished?
It's a tough one, really tough one. I mean, I think postcode wars are more prominent in London. I think it's definitely more prominent in London. As I said, as part of Your City Says No, we do a lot of work with a lot of people that are in the London boroughs, particularly Hackney, Croydon. And there is a real issue there with postcode wars. You know, literally, if you're on the wrong side of the street, then that's enough to warrant you being stabbed. I think Birmingham, yes, there's postcode wars. I don't think it's as prevalent as it is down in the, you know, kind of in the suburbs of London, as I say, but it is still an issue. I mean, we all know there's gangs in the city that, you know, are named and labelled by their postcode. And there are lots of young people that fear that they can't go to certain areas of the city because of reprisal from, you know, gang members and opposite postcodes. I think it's a very difficult thing because it's like a kind of mentality, but I'm not sure most of these young people that are labelling themselves with postcodes actually understand what they're fighting for. I mean, there's an awful lot of people out there don't even own the property in the postcode they're fighting for. You know, the government do, so what are you fighting about? It just seems ironic, really, that, you know, people are out there prepared to take someone's life, prepared to go to prison for 25 years over a postcode where you don't even own a property. It's ludicrous. And I don't think it's, you know, is there really a necessity to protect what? What are you protecting? Your own home, by all means. You know, if someone's, you know, attacking you in your own home or threatening your home, your family, by all means. But the street down the road, why is that so personal Do you know what I mean? Obviously, as I say, it's a mentality I'm sure many could shed a light on, but for me, I don't understand, but I'm not sure that can be diminished, because so many people seem to have that inbred in them that they have to be part of this postcode issue and this postcode war because their brothers, uncles, cousins, sisters, aunties were part of it, so they need to carry on that legacy almost, which is a shame. It really is a shame.
So when you do your events, how do you try to make sure that the kids feel safe?
So we put on events across the city. We've had some amazing events. Our first one that we held last October was in Victoria Square, where we had an open staged event. We had rappers, spoken words, dancers, singers, bike riders doing stunts on their bikes and things. It was absolutely amazing. But what we also integrate, it's not just all about fun. We integrate as part of our events speakers as well. When we do our indoor events, our last one was in February, and if you look on the Instagram page, you'll see, I mean, it was absolutely amazing. We had in excess of 600 to 700 young people all together in Aston at the Lighthouse Centre. We put on a dance competition, and it was absolutely amazing. When we do everything to make sure our young people are safe, so when they come into the premises, we have security, qualified SIA trained security on the door. They have metal wands, and every individual is wanded, or bags are checked, or coats are checked, etc., to ensure that our young people can come in and feel safe and can actually really enjoy themselves. And it was so lovely to see so many young people having fun. People from across the city, you know, there was people in there from Aston, from Lazars, from Witton, from Handsworth, from Praybar, from Frankley, from, you know, Chelmsley Wood, Smiths Wood, all over the city, all together having an absolutely brilliant time. You know, it was really, really good to see that. We had the dance competition, we put on free raffles, we give free food, free drinks, and we also incorporated into that a county lines workshop. A really good friend of mine who served, you know, long sentences in prison for his involvement in county lines, and he's now a published international author. He spoke to the young people about his experiences and, you know, the negative effects of being involved in county lines. We also had another gentleman that was arrested for one of the biggest ever kind of drug busts in you know, incorporated with county lines many years ago, who also served lengthy prison sentences. So having those kind of people speak into the young people and say, listen, you know, we know where you're coming from because we've done it. I mean, Ezekiel, he's only young himself, he's only 30, so it's not like, you know, he's 50, 60 and he did it 30 years ago. He's served a long prison sentence in that time, so he's a young man. We also had another fabulous speaker, Daniel Palmer, that's ex-gang affiliated. You know, he's been shot, he's been stabbed on more than one occasion, and he as well was able to talk openly and freely to the young people about what it's like to be involved in that kind of warfare and why it is a negative thing and not a positive.
So what is your message to the parents first?
For parents, my message would be alert. You know, parents tend to obviously see the good in their child. We all do that, and we're all guilty of that sometimes. But I think be alert is the big message. You know, kind of thinking it'll never happen to you, it'll never happen to your child is probably the first mistake. Children don't spend all their time at home under the close parental eye. You know, they're at school, they're with peer groups, they might be out, you know, socialising in different places. It's be vigilant, be aware. Don't be afraid to confront your child as well. Obviously, you know, with teenagers growing up, they do need to have that freedom to develop and to be themselves and to kind of, you know, find their own way in the world. But equally, as a parent, it is still your responsibility to ensure that your child's not involved in these things, that your child isn't out there carrying a knife, that your child's not selling drugs on a street corner. You know, if they're coming in with, you know, new trainers that you know cost £100, they're coming in with new tracksuits that cost £150. You know, it's your job to question them. Where did you get that from? Where did that money come from? As a responsible parent, you are responsible for your child and for ensuring, obviously, that, you know what they're doing. If they're out and about, yeah, fine. Who are they with? What are they doing? You know, why are they there? Really keeping a close track on your individual children and making sure that you do take that responsibility. But equally, I understand as well that, you know, bringing up young people isn't the easiest job in the world, and that there are going to be times where there's kind of, you know, that disrespect coming from a young person towards their parent for whatever reason. You know, and I'd always say, please, if you're struggling and you're finding it difficult, if you've got fears that your child might be involved in any sort of gang violence or maybe carrying a knife or selling drugs, please get in touch with us, because we have so many agencies that we can obviously offer that support and help. if you feel that you can't do it on your own, we are there to help, just like many other, grassroots organisations across the city.
What your message to the youth?
Okay, for the young people, my message would be to just believe in yourself, be positive about your ability and what you can accomplish. Selling drugs on a street corner, if you've got the ability to do that, if you've got the ability to run a gang and run people on the street, you've got the ability to run a business. Let's be honest, how rich are you going to get shot in 10 bags of weed on the corner? Do you know what I mean? You're never going to be a millionaire, are you? Let's be honest. Having your own business and the skills to run a business, that's a whole different story. Get in touch with us, reach out. We have so many different organisations up and across the West Midlands that can offer you the support that you need, whether that's funding for grants to set up your own business, whether you want to get involved in music and publishing your own music, whether you want to kind of get involved in any sporting activities that you've got a real passion for. Just get in touch and let us know. But carrying a knife, being involved in youth violence is only going to lead to one of two things. Heaven forbid, it's prison or death. There is nothing positive to come from it. And if you're one of the lucky ones that escapes without ever getting caught or ever getting hurt seriously, you still got to carry that and live with that in the future. Do you know what I mean? And karma always catches up eventually. It might not be with you, but it might well be with your family, with your own children one day. So my message would be, leave that behind. There's nothing positive in it. It's always going to bring negativity and negative people around you. So find something more positive to get involved with. Reach out, help's out there if you really want it.
Is there any news about next events, upcoming events?
At the moment, obviously, because of the whole COVID situation, we had a good amount of funding in place to have 3 events that we were going to be running. And we had a positive peace party we were doing in collaboration with Voice Against Crime at Zara's nightclub on Broad Street as well. There was about 6 things in the pipeline. We're doing a great project for the bike life young people, providing them with all safety equipment for their bikes and things. But sadly, the COVID situation has really held us back because all the funding's been put on hold and things. But, we definitely are. By the autumn, we want to be up and running. And as soon as the government lift that kind of mass gathering allowance, legal mass gatherings, then, definitely we'll be on it and putting an event out there for our amazing young people in the city to come and get together and, showcase their talents again, most definitely.
Being from the youth myself, I just want to say you're doing an amazing job and please don't stop because the youth need you more than ever.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. And you too. You're doing an amazing job too. Keep it up. Love the positivity.
Thank you.